So Jackson Hinkle pointed this out, actually. Jackson Hinkle tweets out massive protests in Serbia against BlackRock. You can see those are all people. Those are all people lining up the streets. Uh, a lot of people lining up the streets. So, what exactly are they protesting about? Well, here could be one of the reasons. This is from a place called Kosu, NPR. Thousands protest against lithium mining in Serbia. Tens of thousands of protesters rallied on Saturday against lithium mining in Serbia, despite official warnings of their alleged plot to topple populist president Alexander, Vukic and his government. By the way, I just want to mention this is written August 2024. So this is last summer. But this could be a reason why they're protesting. Um, their alleged plot to topple populist President Vivek and his government. He said earlier he had been tipped off by the Russian intelligence services that mass unrest and a coup were being prepared in Serbia by unspecific Western powers that wished to oust him from power. Surprise, surprise. The crowd chanted there will be no mining and treason and treason. After one of the biggest protests in downtown Belgrade in year's end, some people in the crowd marched towards the capital's two main railway systems, pledging to block train traffic until their demands that lithium mining be officially banned are met. Government officials and state-controlled media have launched a major campaign against the rally, comparing it to the Maidan uprising in Ukraine's capital, Kiev, that led to the toppling of the country's then pro-Russian president, Viktor Yanukovych, in 2013. A lot of people still don't know about that. Just let you know. A lot of people still don't know about that. Even though it's blatantly obvious. You can find it on Google. You can find it in any bookstore. Go listen to the reports by Jeffrey Sachs, John Mearsheimer. Go even watch the documentary that Oliver Stone put together. It explains the whole coercion of why we had the Ukraine war and why it's still going on. Organizers of the Belgrade protests have said their protests would be peaceful. Our rally today is ecological and has no political ambitions, but the government has accused us of seeking to stage a coup. Actor Svetlana Bojevic said, again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing these names. We came here today to raise our voice against something that is beyond politics, she said. The demonstration came after weeks of protests in dozens of cities throughout Serbia against the government plan to allow lithium mining in a lush farming valley in the west of the country. This plan had been scrapped in 2022 after large demonstrations were held that included the blocking of key bridges and roads, but it was revived last month and received a boost in an tentative deal on crucial raw materials signed by Vivek's government with the European Union. The Balkan nation is formally seeking EU membership while maintaining every close ties with both Russia and China. EU memorandum on the mining of lithium and other key minerals needed for green transition could bring Serbia closer to the bloc and would reduce Europe's lithium battery and electric car imports from China. While the government insists that the mine is an opportunity for economic development, critics say it would inflict irreparable pollution on the Jadar Valley, along with its crucial underground water reserves and farming land. So that's also another thing to add, that since we mentioned about Tesla earlier, is all these EV vehicles that people pledge that are supporting the planet and it's great for the environment have no idea that in order to get the materials for the electric batteries, to get the lithium, to get the cobalt, to get the nickel, you're going to third world nations, exploiting those people and deliberately causing havoc to the environment to get minerals to build a battery for an electric vehicle. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. Locals in the valley are strongly opposed to the mine, which could operate by multinational Rio Tinto mining company. Both the government and the company have pledged the highest environmental standards in the mining process, but opponents haven't been convinced. Tens of thousands have been turned out for the environmental protection rallies held throughout Serbia in the past several weeks, posing a major challenge to Vivek and his increasingly autocratic rule. Opponents want the government to formally outlaw any lithium and boron mining in Serbia. The government has set up a medical team to monitor any potential health hazards and a call center for citizens to voice their concerns, an apparent bid to soften some of the opposition. Serbia Mining and Energy Minister Dub Vratic, that's what I'm going with, told the Associated Press earlier this week in an interview that Serbia wouldn't only export raw materials, but would develop a value chain in the country linked to producing batteries and electric vehicles to help develop new technologies. So that was back then. And now, so they know that their government is complicit with multinational corporations that want to exploit the Serbian people and especially their farmland for mining, so that European nations and other corporations can then take those resources and use them to their advantage. So that's one of the reasons why they're protesting. And here's a more recent one from The Guardian saying protesters march in Belgrade at huge rally against Serbian president. Authorities in capital make apparent attempt to disrupt demonstration by canceling public transportation. Tens of thousands of people from across Serbia joined an anti-corruption rally in Belgrade on Saturday, in which is regarded as the accumulation of months of protests that have shaken the grip of the country's autocratic president, Alexander Vučić. The sound of whistles and how do you say that? Vuvuzelas echoed throughout the Serbian capital, which has been on high alert since the rally was announced. Some carried banner that read, "He's finished." Others chanted, "Pump it up," a slogan adopted during the 4 months of student-led protests. The anti-government rally is likely to be the biggest ever held in the Balkan country. Between 275,000 and 325,000 people took part in the protests, according to the Public Assembly Archive, an organization that monitors crowd size. That figure is far higher than the government's estimate. Wow. I wonder why they don't mention it in our media, that there's civil unrest in Serbia. I wonder why they would never mention mass amount of people gathering together with common interests to fight a common enemy like an autocratic government. I wonder why they would never mention that in our media. I mean, this is world news. This is very important. It's affecting people. And it's affecting business because it's about a lithium mine. So why wouldn't there be more attention to this? Well, you probably know why. Vivek, who has dominated Serbian politics since becoming prime minister in 2014 and then president in 2017, oh, I guess they have both, said the demonstrators would have never forced him to stand down. "You will have to kill me if you want to replace me," he said. Yeah, it sounds like a real democratic populist. That's really for the people. You have to kill me if you want to get me gone. Authorities have faced near daily protests since last November when a station roof collapsed, killing 14 people in Novi Sad, Serbia's second city. Many blamed rampant corruption for the disaster at the station, which Vivek had inaugurated in 2022 after renovations. The leaderless protest movement has been largely peaceful, but Vivek has claimed that protesters will try to achieve something with violence, and that will be the end. Predicted that many will end up behind bars on Saturday. So what it sounds like to me, just out of thought and theory and observation, that this guy who is supposed to be a populist but sides with big international corporations wants this protest to stop and has predicted that, oh, well, if there's violence happening, then we can use the excuse of locking these people up because they're criminals. Sounds like there's going to be some sort of coup happening. Just my kind of observation. It sounds like big corporations, other entities are going to play a factor into disrupting this protest by orchestrating a coup, by getting insiders to pose as civilians and shake things up, if you will. It's what it kind of sounds like to me, because they need something to try to achieve violence to lock peaceful protesters up behind bars, try to discredit this movement. So, just to show people why protesting against lithium mining is worth noting, and what people driving in Teslas or any EVs need to understand, and this is a perfect picture of this, is while you think you're doing good for the planet, while you think that you're, holier than thou, buying an electric vehicle, you're saving the world, you're saving the country, and you're doing a great job, you're giving yourself a pat on the back, this is also what you're promoting. That all these electric vehicles result in exploitation and slavery. And there's children. Look at that. Children are working these mines to dig up the minerals in order to create the conductors needed for these batteries. The batteries that they're charging you $50,000 to replace. That people are paying extortionate amount of money for a vehicle that may or may not work during the winter. So now you kind of understand the pushback of electric vehicles and primarily Tesla. That isn't all just politics. That a lot of people are waking up to realize that these are a scam. These are really just a scam. And here's from the Independent here that pointed this out, saying, here it is better not to be born. Cobalt mining for big tech is driving child labor and deaths in the Congo. Child labor, sexual assault, birth defects, abject poverty, workers buried alive. A new expose on artisanal cobalt mining in the Democratic Republic of Congo lifts the curtain on a nightmarish world in which billions of people are unwittingly complicit, senior climate correspondent Louise Boyle reports. So, just note this. Just note this. That when you're driving your Tesla, when you're driving an EV vehicle, when Trump's out there screaming at the top of his lungs that, oh, you're anti-American, how dare you, I'm going to deem you a terrorist, that this is also involved with this. That EV vehicles are involved in child labor, sexual assault, birth defects, abject poverty, that what you're doing is advancing more of this. And not to say that this happens irregardless of EV vehicles or not. That's not what I'm saying. But all the people that are praising themselves and patting them on the back and pretending that they're holier than thou driving these vehicles, note that this is what you're also complicit to. That this is also what you're doing. That you're saying helping your environment and helping people also leads to this. And now you kind of know also why Serbia is in civil unrest because of this. Because I don't want my farmland to be subjugated to a mining corporation that's going to exploit people and use child labor Because if it's happening in the Congo, it's happening in Africa, it's happening in a lot of places. And undoubtedly, it'll probably happen in Syria. So that's why they're protesting. That's why there's civil unrest. And that's why their so called populist leader that they want to overthrow so they can get this mining deal through is now trying to find ways to corrupt himself and go after the same protesters. So kudos on the Serbian people for rising up. And again, there's a reason why you never heard this. You don't hear this story in mainstream media. I wonder why. I wonder why when so many people can gather together and find a common enemy like an autocratic government, an authoritarian ruling, a government that supposedly stands for democracy but goes against the people at every point in turn. I wonder why they would never showcase that on this side of the world. Got me. Got me.